Old dog boxing, motherfucker.
Oh, Canelo, you puta.
And this YouTuber, I just fight real fighters.
Time to expose them. So we had a signed contract to fight. Here you can see Canelo's signature and my signature to the right. Claiming he's not fighting YouTubers. Bullshit. Look at the poster. We were announcing Tuesday, February 11th. Claiming he fights real fighters, but he's fighting Crawford, a 135-pound fighter, and running from a real fighter like David Benavidez, you. The truth is, you can be bought. You're a money-hungry squirrel chasing your next nut. The truth is, these sports-washing, shady characters are paying you hundreds of millions of dollars to stop our fight from happening because they couldn't fathom the fact that they can't create a bigger fight than me and you. Al Heyman has made you hundreds of millions of dollars, and you turned your back on him for this check. Disloyal. And you were begging to do this fight on pay-per-view. But I have loyalty. Loyalty to Netflix, doing the biggest numbers. And you call me a YouTuber, but you've never had a boxing match as big as mine. Remember you told my team that your daughter came home and asked if you were fighting Jake Paul? She was all excited. You said that was the first time your daughter's ever asked you about a fight. And you're screwing over all your Mexican fans by doing your fights in Saudi. It just shows what type of person you are. And I promise you one thing, Canelo. Any fight that you do this year, mine will be bigger. So go to your boss, you Ring Magazine employee, you pink and orange. And oh, fix that herpy on your lip, you dirty puta.
Jake Paul said a whole lot in this video, fam. A whole lot. But he just seems to be in his feelings. That's how he comes off to me. He sounds like a bitter ex or a bitter baby mom that feels used and abused and is now angry that her man has moved on with the new girlfriend or the side piece. Let's break down what Jake Paul says in this video. And let's get right into it, man. So the first thing that Jake Paul exposes is when Canelo says that he doesn't fight YouTubers, he only fights real fighters. He exposes Canelo's lies by exposing the contract that him and Canelo had agreed and signed to make the fight. And there's no denying that. From the looks of the video, Canelo did sign on the line to fight Jake Paul. So I do believe that Canelo was going to fight Jake Paul had Turki not intervened and made a counter offer that Canelo Alvarez seemed to like better than the Jake Paul one. However, if Jake Paul and Alvarez did have a contract agreement, if Saul Alvarez had an agreement with MVP Promotions and Jake Paul, then Jake Paul can now sue Canelo Alvarez if Saul doesn't keep his word. That's how this works. If Canelo and Jake Paul have a contractual agreement, then doesn't Canelo have to keep his word? Or Jake Paul can sue, right? I'm not a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure that's how that works. So that's something to keep in mind moving forward. If Canelo did sign to fight Jake Paul, then why didn't Jake Paul sue Canelo Alvarez for a breach of contract? Just something to keep in mind. So the next thing that Jake Paul brings up is how Canelo is fighting a 135-pounder in Terrence Crawford, but leaves out the part that Canelo actually started at a lower weight division as well. Canelo started his professional career fighting at 140, and Crawford is even taller than Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez is 5'7", while but Crawford is about 5'9". You know, he's taller than Canelo by a whole inch. And plus, Crawford was the one that was pursuing the fight with Canelo Alvarez, not the other way around. Then Paul says that Canelo is ducking David Benavidez, but my whole thing is Canelo's schedule is already booked. But Jake, you seem to be in need of an opponent, so why don't you fight David Benavidez instead of Canelo? He's literally your size, and he could make your weight division no problem. And then he calls Canelo Alvarez a money-hungry squirrel chasing his next nut, and that Canelo Alvarez can be bought. Again, more shaming tactics. Sounds like a bitter ex that hasn't moved on, because this is prize fighting. Boxing is a business dressed up as a sport. So trying to shame Canelo Alvarez for providing his services to the highest bidder is neither here or there. And I mean, you guys seen and heard the video by Jake Paul. I don't need to break down the whole thing because the whole video just sounds a lot like shaming tactics, scolding, throwing insults because Jake is an upset, bitter ex. But I understand why Jake is so upset. I really do, because Jake Paul was in a driver's seat to make a whole lot of money. But in order to do that, he needed Canelo Alvarez. But unfortunately for Jake Paul, not even with a corporate machine like Netflix backing you was it enough to convince Canelo Alvarez to sign with MVP Promotions instead of Turki Al-Sheikh. This case is a simple case of big bank, take little bank. Nothing more, nothing less. But the biggest reason why Jake Paul is so upset is because he knows that he did it so big in his last event with Mike Tyson that unless he gets a big name in the sport like Canelo Alvarez, he's not going to break his record, his last record that he did with Mike Tyson. What goes up must come down. And because Jake Paul did such astronomical numbers with Mike Tyson, it's going to be very difficult to top that. And his only hope in even coming close or trying to break the records that he did with Iron Mike Tyson was a Canelo Alvarez. Jake Paul knows that he can't go back to fighting Mike Perry from bare knuckle fighting or old washed up retired UFC fighters like Anderson Silva or Nate Diaz or Tyron Woodley. He simply knows that those numbers will not compare. They will not come close to his numbers that he did with Mike Tyson. So, in so many words, this might be the beginning of the end for Jake Paul. Like I said before, what goes up must come down. The pressure is on, man. The pressure is now on Jake Paul. He can say what he wants about Canelo Alvarez being a money-hungry sellout, and he can call him a Magazine employee and that he's a slave to Turki Al-Sheikh and Saudi Arabia and all this stuff. But at the end of the day, Jake, you've been bamboozled. You got played. Canelo Alvarez used you as a pawn piece. Don't hate the player, hate the game, man. Welcome to boxing, Jake Paul. And just like everybody else in the sport of boxing, I also think that Jake Paul is using Canelo's name to stay relevant. But at the end of the day, for a guy that claims to be the face of boxing, like you claim to be, Jake, you sound bitter, homie. Since you're the face of boxing, you shouldn't need Canelo, right? You shouldn't need Canelo to sell your fights. So go ahead, man. I dare you to go head up versus Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford in September. Try and go head up versus Canelo Alvarez in May. I'm telling you guys, man, Jake Paul's back is now up against the wall, and he knows it. But anyways, guys, that's all I got for this one. Let me know what y'all think down in the comment section, man. You already know. It's been your boy O-Dog Boxing. I'm out, man.